Narcissists are attracted to strong people, but it soon becomes their goal to make that person weak. And narcissists, they try to make their person dependent on them, and they work really hard to achieve that. But in the process of trying to make the other person dependent on them, hooked on them, it's them that invariably becomes dependent on the other person. And a lot of times they realize those things too late. If if a narcissist is with a certain supply for a while, they do tend to make the person weaker over time. They do tend to make the person feel less confident over time. They do tend to make that person a bit more confused and dependent over time. And it inflates their ego. It gives them the sense of empowerment that they can have such control over somebody, especially somebody who, at the beginning, they had some high level of respect for, because they wouldn't have been attracted to the person if they didn't have any respect for the person from the get-go. So it's when they find somebody they respect, somebody who has certain traits and qualities that they admire, somebody who they see as being strong, but at the same time, somebody who they see as potentially being a good project for them, to weaken, to make them become submissive. Basically, see what they can get away with, knowing that they'll feel good along the way because they get their ego stroked, they get validated, they feel empowered. But it's very common that once the narcissist has been working on their project, their person, for a while, a lot of their feeling of being self-confident, of feeling validated, of feeling energized, even being creative and going out and doing things, they've been borrowing the other person's energy. They've been using that person's supply. Even when the person has been broken down and isn't quite what they were at the beginning, the narcissist, they continue to use that person's supply to fuel them for a long time. And narcissists, so often, they forget that they are actually dependent on that person's energy to keep them going. They're dependent on the things that person has to offer. And sometimes it's not even the energy of the person or the thing the person does for them. It's what that person represents in the narcissist's mind. Because narcissists, they tend to go for people who represent something important to them. So that if they can associate with that person, if they can get somebody of that level of importance in their eyes, to become submissive to them, to stick around with them, it means a lot. But it's not uncommon that they forget how much they depend on the person, and they'll often take decisions, they'll often make certain moves that's capable of rupturing the relationship for good. Just because they have somebody who's dependent on them, who needs them, who's confused, who's weaker because they were with the narcissist, doesn't mean that that person is guaranteed to stick around forever. And it's when the narcissist ends up pushing that person away, the person who, even after all that time, still does offer something very important to the narcissist. It's when they push that person away and they realize that they've actually pushed that person away and they're not getting that person back, that they feel this tremendous emptiness, this tremendous hole that they don't really know how to fill, because they can't really fill it properly with other people. It's only those moments where they're in their most ecstatic state of feeling that they might temporarily feel level-headed, kind of in that neutral space where they're okay. But then the emptiness starts to creep up on them, because they like to think that people are their belongings, people are their possessions, that once they've marked their territory on you, that you'll be around forever, or at least you'll be around when they need you, that you're just a shout away or a phone call away, that it won't take much effort to get you back into their orbit. It's only once they've lost their fuel source for good. It's only when they need that fuel source and they no longer have access to it. It's only when they realize that fuel source no longer has them as their center of attention anymore. The person is no longer focusing on the narcissist the way they used to. They're creating, they're focusing elsewhere, that the narcissist realizes that they might not be able to get the person back. And of course it hurts them to know that people can make it on their own without them. And of course that should be your only focus. When you're trying to break away from somebody toxic, your only focus should be is applying yourself to the things that matter to you and not worrying about what the other person's doing or thinking. But if you have removed your focus from them for a long enough period of time, then yeah, it does have an impact on them. It can even have potentially a severe impact on them. And that just means that you should be mindful of the fact that these people might want to work their way back into your life because they need a hit off what you once offered. But believe me, you don't want to be anybody's drug. You don't want to be anybody's utensil where they just come to use you for benefit and then throw you away. But a lot of toxic people learn the hard way that people aren't possessions, that people aren't there just to be used, and that you can't just push people around and expect them to be around forever if you ever need them again. It's just not the way things work. Thanks for watching.